That's the eighth one, episode of Blah Blah, meaning crafting metaphors for handmade transformation. Yes, I'm gonna decipher that, fancy name. It's all about how we can use crafting handmade metaphors in order for us to grow. You don't need to be a fan of handmade, but well, you can take those metaphors in order for you to grow. And today I've got inspired by Melanie Anslayer, this concept of leading the leaders. My God, this one is epic. If you don't know her, really need to check her out. But there is also a thing that made me think about leading the leaders. What she says is that it's so easy to lead the people that are not internally leaders, because basically those are people that kind of expect us to tell them what to do. But how do you lead a leader? A leader is a person who doesn't want to be told what to do. That's a person that takes the stand, that makes his own or her own decisions. And that's a person that actually, when you tell that person what to do, that's going to be a person that's going to be questioning it or taking a different approach or maybe adding another angle to it. Like that's own vibe. And to me, that's a strong leader. And what I loved about what Melanie said, leading the leader is a totally different thing. And when we think of different realms that we embody in ourselves and different realms in which we are leaders, for example, when you're a mom of three, you're, instant leader on the playground for moms that have only one child and just like looking at you, telling you, oh my God, how do you do it with those three little ones, right? You become the leader in terms of mothering. Maybe that's not like a good comparison because we are really great mother on our own. We don't need to be led by anyone in that. Like we trust our instincts. But you know what I mean? You have this one realm in which you like instantly become a leader through your experience, through what you've went through. We can assume that a mother of three went through a whole bunch, a lot more than mom of one. We don't want to compare again, but we can expect certain patterns or certain level of knowledge from her that allows her to be leader, like natural leader in the playground. And that's the same in the coaching industry. When we have one person that cracks the financial code and made, I don't know, 7 or 8 figures, or what is like the new black now, and that person is sharing the knowledge, okay, I did that through that fancy funnel and automation and several people on my team, blah blah blah. We immediately want to listen to that person because obviously that person has the results, so naturally becomes a leader, leading us through to get to the point where we probably want to be, having those 3K months, right? But the idea that Melanie gave me, and I really love it, is the fact that we are not like overall leaders, like to be put on pedestal, and that we are know-it-alls. We lead in certain areas, and in one person we embody various areas of our life, like be it relationship, parenting, business, maybe, I don't know, being around people, or like being able to focus on one thing. There are so many realms in which we can be leaders, we could be good at, we can have something to share with the world. And the idea of leaders that can lead other leaders basis on this idea that we can be good at one realm and actually have something to offer to a person that is a natural leader in different realm. And this way we both can grow, we can learn from each other, and this way we can up-level ourselves, both of us grow because of this exchange. And that is how you lead a leader. You take this realm in which you feel that you can be taught something or you can grow in certain areas, and you look for a leader that is maybe like a few steps ahead of you, and you kind of go to that person because you want to be led, but at the same time you can be a leader to that person in other realms that you're good or better or few steps ahead at. I really loved that concept. And what I wanted to add on top of that, I totally agreed. And that's something that really changed my perspective. So thank you, Melanie, for that. But what I wanted also to add on top of that is another handmade metaphor, this crafting metaphor that really can be applied somewhere outside of our handmade bubble. when I look at handmade workshops, that's amazing thing where we're at. And when you look at it from a perspective of leading the workshop, that's obviously a person who is, for example, doing the, I don't know, clay work, right? So we're doing some pottery. And that's a person that we immediately listen to. So that's probably the owner of the handmade, workshop, and we're coming there and we want to do our own, I don't know, cup or a, plate. So we listen to that person because that person tells us how to work with the clay, that we have to wash our hands and maybe use some water, and then we put it all together. And then that person tells us that we need to put it into a really, really hot oven. Then we like have the ready-made piece. And then we're surprised because we need to like put the paint on it and then put it to the oven again. And naturally, we're there sitting and listening to that person. But what I've noticed, and I love those, handmade pottery gatherings, I've noticed that when we sit around and each of us, we are doing those pottery stuff, like one of us is doing the pot and the other one is doing the plate and the other one is doing, I don't know what, but just playing with the hands, right? And being offline, not scrolling, right? And we all enjoy that process. There's a lot of conversation going on. And what I've noticed, it's so beautiful to observe that there are instant leaders there. One lady started sharing her story, and she looked like a really like a CEO, like really fancy clothes, really great watch, and like huge makeup, but really like a really good makeup. She looked so good. We could tell that she's like over 50 at least. Turned out that she's over 60, so that was really shocker. But she shared her experience stemming from her work. So she was telling us all the stories about, how it was hard for her to be the first woman in the board of CEOs, like, and then how she, dropped the job, and then she proceeded to another company when she became like instant leader in that company, and she was the only woman there, and how she changed the organization and the culture to allow other women to jump on that, upward movement in this corporate ladder. And the thought that came to me, on this clay workshop, the appointed leader was the person teaching us what to do with the pottery, how to create those magnificent works that we will take home and they're going to be unique. But the next one turned out to be this lady. Even though at the beginning she was not the leader, once she opened her mouth and told her story, we all felt how much we can be inspired and how much we grew, how many things shifted in our thinking about how it is to, work your way up in such an environment. And by her sharing the story, she beautifully added to the fact that those handmade gatherings are not only on this level of leader sharing to a leader and leader leading a leader, like the clay maker, like master, and then she sharing her story, because clay maker, she was asking her all of the questions about scaling her, her business, clay working business as well. So there was this magical exchange in the level of leader and leader, like leader leading the other leader and the other way around. But what I saw was all of us sitting by the table. We were willing to put our leadership on the table. And suddenly, after the CEO's story, we've heard a mom sharing her story about the handicapped child. I still have tears in my eyes when I remember that story, because she showed us she is an epic leader when it comes to compassion, unconditional love. And we were just sitting there and we're like, we all felt we grew. Sorry, I just do that when I think of those stories. And then we also had a woman who was sharing her experience with the husband. And that wasn't a great story, so I won't like tell it, like I will skip that story. But the lesson from that story that allowed her to grow to be a leader by that table was the fact that she was strong enough to leave that person, and she was strong enough to go through a whole bunch of coaching programs and support environment that she did, was able to provide for herself in order to coach herself out of that relationship and then coach herself into a new relationship in which she could put healthy boundaries and she could flourish. Immediately by that table, she became a leader in that realm. And, I didn't, quit my marriage and didn't drop my husband, but I came back home stronger because I knew that in order to be fulfilled and satisfied in a relationship, it's really cool to have strong boundaries. And I immediately communicated some that I really allowed myself to be bended over, right? And in fact, I felt I grew. I felt there was this leader that led me through growth. And I did grow. I came back home different. So that's the idea I want to leave you with. Think of handmade workshops. When you go to a handmade workshops or any other gathering, but yeah, we're here for handmade metaphors, right? When you sit by that table, do have this image, like you look from the top on that gathering, you see the circle. You see the circle. So when you think of leaders, think of the circle. It's no longer this paradigm of pyramid, of a triangle that we have like one leader and everybody's somewhere on the bottom, somewhere lower, somewhere inferior. And we're just like looking up at this one master. No, it's no longer valid. And especially with ladies, we have this magic circle. All of us are sitting in that circle. All of us. It's huge. It's like, it's not only those gatherings, handmade gatherings, but that's the symbol, right? It's all of us. Like, that's this huge earth, like circle. Even the earth is circle. Come on. We're sitting there. And each and every single person creating that circle is a leader. You are a leader as well. What if we change this paradigm? We all are leaders. We all have something of value that we can provide to other leaders, to other female leaders, male leaders, human leaders. What if we all can be leaders? And this idea of a circle, this full circle, just like in the olden days, people sitting, gathering by the fire, right? Doing some handmade works, obviously. But this idea of leaders sitting together and talking and sharing experience in order to allow others to grow. How about thinking that once you're sharing your story, your truth, your experience, you immediately become a leader that is allowing other leaders to grow. Through your experience, you empower another human being in order to grow in some realm. And in 1 second, that person is sharing a story from different realm that allows you to grow. Hope that next time when you go to those handmade workshops, no matter whether that's clay making or maybe, I don't know, weavery or some painting with wine involved, you will anchor this thought of leaders leading the leaders. And you see yourself as a leader, that by sharing, by being you, by being genuinely you, by not putting on a mask, but by not pretending that you're this goddamn expert put on the pedestal for I don't know what reason, by being vulnerable, by being you, you are a leader. And thus, you enter this magic circle where we all grow. I hope that this metaphor will stick with you. And I really do hope that you will come and join some of the crafting workshops. Believe me, some magic is going on out there. And you will walk away being even stronger leader by growing in the realms that you never expected to grow. See you in the next episode of Blah Blah.